The old Jurassic World trilogy was weak. The first movie was a standout, but the other two completely lost the touch of what that original trilogy brought, especially Dominion, which was absolute trash.
That is one big pile of shit.
But now we get the start of a new trilogy, Jurassic World Rebirth. How was it? Let's talk about it. So I'm just gonna straight up tell you, Jurassic World Rebirth gives us exactly what this franchise has been missing recently, and delivered on all of my expectations that I wanted out of this movie. I really enjoyed my time with the new cast of characters. I fell in love with almost every single one of the characters the moment they went on screen, and I want to see more of them for the rest of this trilogy. I want a sequel just so I can see some of these characters again. I fell in love with their characters, and I can't wait to see what this trilogy has to bring just so I can see these characters again. Every actor and actress was absolutely great in their role. Scarlett Johansson, Jonathan Bailey, which I did not know he was in this movie. From his role in Wicked as Fiyero to his role in here, they're two completely different characters, and he is definitely that rising star in Hollywood. All of them do great, and I can't wait to see them again in the future. I also like how he took the setting back to what Jurassic Park 3 did. Arguably 2, where these characters are now trapped on an island. Jurassic Park 3 did that. These characters are on an island, and I'm glad this movie decided to go back on those roots and go back to that island. And the horror elements in this film, easily the best part of it. I'm glad that we're now getting that scare factor back into Jurassic Park franchise. Recently, Jurassic Park just felt like dinosaur fest movies. Not really a scare type movie. Now I know you don't really want this franchise to be horror, but at least a few scares in there would be nice. But Jurassic World Rebirth, full on, went for it. Suspense, jump scares, and surprisingly a few horror elements in there. And I'm glad that we got that scare factor in Jurassic World. Easily the best part of this movie was the suspense, the dinosaur scenes, the jump scares, all of that in this movie. That's exactly what I wanted. And it's good to finally see the dinosaurs as a focus again in this franchise. Fallen Kingdom, Domain, whatever that did, the dinosaurs were not a focus in the film. They were just there, just for decoration basically. They had nothing to do with the plot. It was a Jurassic World movie. The dinosaurs needed to be in there, so they just threw them in there for the sake of having dinosaurs in there. But this time, Rebirth actually brought them back as the actual story in this movie. They're on an island with dinosaurs. Absolutely what we wanted from this franchise, and with a few scares in there. And likable characters. Everything you wanted from this franchise is now back in this franchise, all in Rebirth. With the film being an absolutely fun time in the theater. The dinosaur scenes, Jurassic World back on the big screen, is what you want. The film is an absolute blast to watch, and absolutely a fun time. This is basically the definition of a summer blockbuster. A fun time in the theater with these dinosaurs. I can't wait to see what this trilogy has to offer for us, and hopefully it does not go down the route that Jurassic World did. Hopefully it stands out and continues to keep what this movie did, and makes it an absolutely fun time to watch. But there are a significantly lot of problems with this film. But do keep in mind, there's a lot of problems with the writing, but the movie is still an absolutely fun time. Real quick, if you want to help me reach my goal of 1K by the end of the year, consider subscribing. Let's continue. First off, there is way too much setup. Yes, setup is important, but the main part of the story is these characters on an island. And the setup lasted about 40 minutes just for these characters to get on the island. That's a long time for setup, but it took way too long for the story to actually get into play. There had to be a better way to write around that to make that setup not feel as slow as it did. But once we do actually get to the island, it's an absolute fun time, but the build up there could have been a lot better with writing. Now the story has two different teams, a family trapped on an island and these scientists trapped on an island. Now, I enjoyed both stories. If you take one story out, I'll be missing those characters. So, I'm glad that both stories were in here, but at the same time, it feels like there's these two different stories fighting against each other. These two stories don't really connect with each other besides the fact that they're on the same island. It just feels like there's these two different stories fighting against each other to try to make each one stand out. But since you're doing two different stories, every time we cut back to a different team, you're missing the old team. Every time. So there was definitely a better way to write around that, instead of having these two stories collide against each other. I love both concepts of the story, family trapped on the island, scientists doing their stuff, but there's definitely a better way to write around it, so they don't feel like they're colliding against each other to fight for which one is superior. Now the mutated dinosaur is completely wasted. We saw them in the trailer, and in the movie, the dinosaur did not need to be mutated. The design of it is weird, doesn't even look like a dinosaur, and this plot does absolutely nothing to make that dinosaur feel like it's mutated and be more of a threat than an actual T-Rex. You could have replaced the mutated dinosaur with any dinosaur and the plot would play the exact same way. Mutated dinosaur was completely wasted. There was definitely a better way to write around that. And the plot just feels like the movie is checking off all these different boxes to go through. Yes, a lot of the writing for those moments are not as strong, because the movie just feels like it's just checking boxes to hit these different points where you need a more expedition in there to actually make some of those points matter. It feels like, okay, we've done that. Instead of explaining it with expedition, we're just going to go on to the next thing. It rushes over the expedition at some parts that it feels like you're missing a big piece of the puzzle here. And it also feels like we're just doing the same thing that other movies in the franchise has done before. Both the pro and the con. And the tone feels all over the place. Like I mentioned before, I enjoy the scare factor brought back. But the scare factor is, like I said, there's a few horror elements in there. And those horror elements with some funny moments. So the tone feels all over the place because of that. You have these emotional moments where they don't really hit, funny moments, and suspenseful moments. There was definitely a way better way at balancing all that out, so the tone is not uneven like that. Now there's emotional weight in the film. This kind of connects back to my writing issue. The emotional weight in this film, it's there, but since the movie is rushing over its plot with the writing, by the time it's actually building out some of these characters for the more emotional weight to matter, it cuts to the next thing. So then, by the time it cuts to the next thing, everything set up before, you completely forget about and doesn't matter. Like I said, it's just checking off boxes that's trying to check off. So by the end, you're missing that expedition to fully have that emotional weight. But overall, this movie is exactly what you wanted from this franchise. An absolutely fun time with dinosaurs. This is the definition of a summer movie blockbuster, because that's what it is. This is basically this year's Twisters. It's a fun time in the theater, back in this world. These characters are trapped on an island, and it just marks for a great start to this trilogy by being a fun time. But if you look at the writing perspective, it's not as great. But if you just go in expecting a fun time, it's exactly what you're going to get and exactly what I wanted from this movie. But anyways, if you like this video, maybe leave those on the side of this video too. Like, subscribe. See you guys next time. Goodbye.